welcome to NEK VT Rocks, and my guest today is Lynn Rubley, and you're going to talk about CANUSA360?
CANUSA360 Arts.
You can always tell those of us who live up here who are used to saying CANUSA, but you're different.
Well, yes. I've been known to be different. So, well, the reason I'm calling it CANUSA is to really designate that it's Canada and USA coming together for this collaboration. And so that it's a cross-border, collaborative, and so not everybody gets the CANUSA.
Right.
So that's if I say CANUSA, and then the 360, of course, that it's our region, and then the arts.
So how's it working? I mean, what is it? Let's start from ground zero.
Well, it's a very newly formed collaborative.
Yeah.
So it began last summer with conversations from a group of people on both sides of the border. And saying, you know, we want you to come to our events, and we want to get you over the border to our events, so how can we do this? So there was a group that met regularly every month, starting last August, and then you know, just talking about different ways to overcome language barrier, overcome whatever intimidations people have,
including
about
COVID still.
Right, and that was part of it because during COVID so much got shut down and so many people stopped traveling over the border because of COVID, and they haven't gotten back into the habit of doing so. So it's kind of like we need to reconnect in a very vital way to, you know, support our artistic area.
Right, because art knows no borders.
That's right. Art has absolutely no borders.
No, and nor should it.
No. And art is one of those things where you don't really need to know the language so much. You can listen to music if it's in French or English. You can look at art and you don't need to know a language at all. And so that's, you know, and that's part of why we love art, because it has no language barriers or barriers to begin with. As far as I can
mean, we go up to Montreal for dance. Because dance is cross-cultural and linguistically, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. It's wonderful.
Exactly. So, and it's also when people come to the area, and I have a very modest B&B, and people always ask me, well, what's there to do? And we definitely have our outdoor activities, which are obvious and promoted, but then people want to do other things. And they want to go over the border if they can to see what's there. So the idea is that CANUSA360 Arts will be a platform to promote the arts in our region and kind of be, I think of it as one-stop shopping, where we'll have a website, what we're working on now, we're working on a brochure so people can see, oh, these are the places to go. This is what's happening. And because right now there's a lot of things happening, but you really have to kind of hunt and peck to find out where things are and what's going on.
That's true, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's much harder for us on this side to get information from, quote, the other side.
Right.
Because we don't know where to look.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we know the Haskell, but I know there's so much more.
There's a lot more, and they have a lot more going on in some regards in terms of you know, art and music and theater.
And I presume that you're a group of one at this point, right?
Well, no, I am simply so this group started, and then at some point last winter they realized that they actually needed to hire someone to help move things forward. Because all of them were working on other things, and so I have been hired very part-time basis to begin pushing things along, which I started beginning of May, and already. We have one grant in our pocket from
Ooh, well
the
done.
Vermont Humanities. They normally in the fall they do a fall conference, and so this year, because it's their 50th anniversary, they decided to do something different, which was to give different organizations around the state an opportunity to have a festival. So that's the other thing. Besides promoting the arts in our area, we would also like to sponsor several arts events throughout the year, annual events that will bring people together from both sides. So Rick Uford Chase from Newport Downtown Development, and they're our fiscal sponsors. So we were talking, and he had some friends who do these poetry gatherings, and so it's like, poetry's kind of easy to bring people together.
Yes.
And so it just was a really good match for this Humanities Fall Festival grant. So we applied, we got it. So we will be having a poetry symposium that will be held at the Haskell and a couple other locations on the border, all within walking distance, on November 1st and 2nd. And the title is Borders. And so the idea is, how do we live along the border? How do we cross borders? How do we overcome borders? And so I'm in the process of getting poets who can deal effectively with that theme, and we'll have some translation workshops, and so there'll be readings in French, readings in English, readings in both, and it's also an opportunity for people to kind of, okay, well, I can go listen to something in French, or I can learn how to translate, or learn what it is about translating something, from English to French or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, that's both complicated and not at the same time, which is really cool.
Right, yeah. So, and the Haskell is our partner in that, and so they were delighted because obviously that's part of their mission. And so it was...
Yeah, because they were so shut down for so long.
Right.
It's really nice seeing it open up again.
And so they're also, trying to get things back on track,
I mean, during COVID, one of the ways of reaching across the border was literally families who would gather on either side. I mean, there was a wedding there. There were meet the new baby.
I know. I had
so
people,
wonderful too.
Yeah, I had people come to stay with me who were here specifically to meet their families from Montreal or Toronto, and I had one guy come from LA to propose, and they did it right on the border, and there was a nice border patrol there who took their photos.
Who pretended to look the other way.
No, he was actually thought it was very novel, and he was engaged and took pictures for them. And
that's great.
It was really charming. Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating living on a border.
It is.
Really, and I've lived on borders before, but they've been totally permeable. I mean, technically there's a border between England and Scotland, England and Wales. There certainly is between Northern Ireland and Ireland. But there's still more flow. And there was flow here for a long time.
Well, absolutely.
Total flow. And you grew up here.
I did,
really
right.
know.
And I felt like it was a very permeable border when I grew up. I mean, I went with my grandmother over the border to Beebe to get eggs, or we walked as kids across the bridge in Stansted to go get candy at the store, and you just waved. There was no... I never felt like there was a border. And so many people are related on both sides of the border. Right. And there was maybe not quite as much French spoken on this side of the border, but pretty close. Yeah. And it pains me that so much of that has been lost in the last...
Not long after we moved here, there was the whole pizza drama.
I have no idea.
You may have missed that because you were working in another country. Yeah. There's a pizza place just on the other side of the border.
Oh, yes, I know it, right.
And the habit was that people would order their pizza, walk across, pick it up, bring it back, take it home, and then come back and check in if they needed to check in. But Buzzy Roy
Oh,
the
yes.
pharmacist, they wouldn't let him cross with his pizza. And he was outraged. Anyway, he crossed and really pushed it. It went all the way to the International Court. But we had this whole drama event where they marched from their side, we marched from our side, we met at the border, and we did the bring us pizza drama.
Oh, gosh.
The border guards both thought it was funny and felt like idiots. And they were only doing what they had to do. But it was a whole big scene, and everybody was just so upset because that's not the way it was.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
It's
So having art being able to flow much more is wonderful.
yes.
It would be really cool to be able to build things along the border. Like
Well, what do you
statues.
envision?
There could be things made out of stone or wood, carving, or temporary things that go up and come down in a weekend.
You know, I just had a great vision that, well, the lake, of course.
Of course.
Wouldn't it be fantastic to create floating sculptures that could be put along the border there?
Oh, it would.
Well, I can see it. I can just see it. I'm seeing things blowing in the wind,
Yeah.
and people from both sides. Really easy. I mean, what a stage!
Yes.
That beautiful.
It would be fabulous.
Can't you see that?
Yes.
I can see it
And
now.
a lot of us paddle back and forth across that
Right,
border,
right.
so or swim across
Right.
it too.
So floating sculptures along the border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey.
another option for you.
Right. I like that. I like
How
that.
broadly are you considering art?
Very broadly.
Great.
So all the arts. So, you know, poetry, literature, performing arts, you know, dance, music, theater, all the visual arts, crafts. So it's all of it, the whole gamut.
limits.
Film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Haskell is already doing international films
Right,
regularly,
right.
which is really great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's all the arts that are happening.
Yeah. So you have a job that's really exciting. I mean,
Well-
there are no limits,
It-
which is scary.
well, the limit is that we are really focusing on our micro region. So basically, north of the border to Georgeville and Hatley. So not even really as far as Magog and Sherbrooke, although, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll extend there to some degree. But and then on this side, basically, you know, Derby line, Newport down to Barton. You know, maybe Glover a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're trying to really focus, you
tube.
know, in this
Yeah,
small
and manageable.
area, and a lot of it is like, okay, where can I drive? You know, within 20 minutes.
Right.
So not, you know, going further afield. So structuring it so it's really accessible, you know, for most people who live here,
Right.
because there's a lot of us that, you know, don't really want to drive.
Certainly not at night.
Right, exactly. You know, like half hour max.
Yeah.
You know, extend a little bit over, you know, to J Peak, but we're really trying to keep it within this
Yeah.
compact area. So that's our limitation. As I say, but you know, even those borders
Yeah.
are permeable.
Right. Can you involve the schools?
Sure. I mean, we haven't quite gotten that far yet.
Well, as you started in May and the schools finished in
Definitely
May.
for the poetry symposium. You know, we want to have schools involved. So, you know, particularly the colleges who have language programs.
Yeah.
You know, and getting them on board. You know, regarding writing things, translating things, doing that kind of stuff. But yes, so mostly right now, as I say, there's kind of a core group of people who started this who are still involved. So that's why I say it's not just me. It's you know, the borderline players.
Yeah.
You know, the in Holland. What is Andy Bouchard's?
Barrow.
The
I can't remember the name.
I know.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll come halfway through and I'll blurt it out.
You know,
yeah.
certainly things at the Haskell.
Barrage.
Barrage, the Barrage, yes.
yes.
Andy Bouchard's Barrage,
Yes.
So he's been very involved in it. Gabriel and Eva Softy, who are in Stansted, who have the old Forge Gallery there, and you know what is a cabaret, which you know they have a whole block of buildings, and this has kind of been their idea since they purchased that whole block. You know, which was 12 years ago now, I think. So we're still really getting people on board, and so we had our first you know, inaugural event, which was just June 20th, and it was at the Forge in Stansted, and we had about 20 people come, and so you know, it was sort of our liftoff. You know, we're getting out there, and we want people to join because this is a collaborative. And I, you know, my position is very part-time, and I can only do so much. So it really, the collaborative is really only going to work if other people, you know, sign on and take initiative to help create it. We have Barton Arts is involved, and
MAC.
Pardon?
Memphremagog Arts Collaborative, MAC.
No, the Greater Barton Arts.
No, I know Greater Barton.
Right.
But is MAC another?
Yes, so
signature?
MAC,
Cool.
you know, MAC is also kind of just getting its feet, you know, toes dipped in.
Sure.
Figuring out what we're doing. Yeah, so everyone is still figuring out what this is and what it's going to be, and we have just enlisted someone to create a website. So that's kind of the first piece, because that's where things will be showcased. And so hopefully that'll be up and running soon.
That's a really big deal.
Right. I would like to say, you know, by the end of the month. It might be, you know, in August.
Sure.
And then
you have a Facebook group.
Yeah, so I've just kind of got that up and running. And I started the first Facebook one I did under my name because I didn't know any better. And so I just the other day created one that's a group page.
Yeah.
And I've sent a bunch of invites out to everybody.
Good.
And so now we have a group. We have a group. I'm talking to you. We have a group. CANUSA360 Arts. Please join it, and please, please, please post your arts events. That's what it's for. So I've posted anything that I've seen on it already, shared it on there. And
obviously I will post and repost.
Yeah, so right now that's kind of the place to go. And yeah, I got my first message back this morning. It's like, wow, I didn't know all this stuff was happening in our area. Yeah, so.
You know, that's what's so amazing about up here. There is so much happening, and yet I constantly hear people moaning, there's nothing to do up here. You think,
well,
it's how do we share the information?
Right, and it does depend on the time of year. I mean, this is like, there's more things happening, I think, right now.
There's so much happening right now, I can't keep up.
Than you know, a lot of the rest of the year. But yes, there is. And that's what I say, there's these little, you know, pockets. And
do you want people to be involved?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
How? And how?
Well, however they want to be involved. I mean, we want people to be involved by looking at the events that are happening and going to them.
Yes.
I mean, that's promoting them. And then anyone who is an artist, you know, who has art that they want to share in whatever way that is. We are talking about having a membership to have people join the website, and then they would have a link to their website and what they're doing. So we want individuals to join and be part of this. We want organizations to join and be part of it and help promote things. So it's the goal is to just really strengthen everybody and put a face on all the faces. I don't know that sounds quite right.
Yeah.
But to, you know, to say, here's, you know, here's our map, and here's who we are, and for people to be able to say, wow, you know, didn't know there were so many artists doing so many different things. So.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard to figure out where the quote cultural events are.
Right.
But they're here.
They are,
just
yeah.
finding them.
Yeah.
So you're doing a big service by having a central location for that info.
And individual artists who have studios, you know, having them listed. So if somebody wants to contact them, you know, for something they want to commission, or if they want to just go visit their studio and see what they have.
Right.
So it's a platform for that, because again, not everybody knows where to look or knows what name, or so. So it's to help make those individual artists be more visible as well.
Right.
And you know, and I say it's including visual artists and performing artists. So there's a lot of musicians, and again, they kind of pose. So I'm playing here, I'm playing here. But one of the things that I really want on the website that will be there is a calendar. So it'll be a calendar that has all the monthly events.
That would be great.
And, you know, we'll color code it, like this is music, you know, this is visual arts, this is performing arts. And so people can go at a glance and say, oh, wow, this is what I can go see and do, you know, during this month. So that, you know, so that's, you know, so right now, you know, I want people who have something happening to go ahead and list it themselves on the Facebook page, send me the information, so that once we have the the website up and running, I can post it on there.
The calendar.
Put it on the calendar, and so that's how we need people engaged.
And if people can tell you when they're planning an event as early as they know, that can then go on the calendar, which tells other people not to plan that night.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It would be wonderful not to have to pick between two different musicians that you both really want to hear, but
and that's a good point, and I hadn't thought of that yet. So I'm thinking there might be a monthly calendar, and then and a lot of organizations do this, and then you have, you know, what's upcoming, you know, in the months to come.
Yeah.
You know, so if I'm planning something that's, you know, 2 months out or 3 months out, it's like, oh, I don't want it to conflict with these.
Exactly.
Well, arts events, there might be other things happening, but you know.
But it would be nice if as much as possible we could have the spread.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to keep a calendar for, quote, everything is an enormous amount of work. But a, quote, arts calendar, a sports calendar somewhere else, then it makes it manageable or more manageable. I'm not minimizing it.
Yeah.
It's still a lot.
Yeah, it's always hard.
Yeah. It's funny because I still keep finding things like galleries that I didn't know existed. Have you been to the family furniture store going up the hill towards Derby? If you're heading up towards Walmart, there's a family furniture there. Walk in there sometime.
Really?
They have the most incredible sculptures.
Oh, really?
Art
I had no
pieces.
idea. I'd never been in there, I don't think.
We went in for something specific, and I was blown away by these absolutely gorgeous, high-end pieces of art, and the place is packed with them.
I had no idea.
Think how many other things that we don't know.
Right. Well, and I just found out that there's a museum in Quaticook that I didn't know about. And somebody sent me a thing, and I said, "Oh, wow! I had no idea it existed." And I'm usually have an eye on those things because it's
and the Curtis Museum,
Curtis Colby Museum.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
I constantly forget that has some really engaging exhibits, discussions.
Right. Right. And that's right there.
So having a calendar that just says, "Oh yeah, pay attention."
Exactly.
But there must be so much else, and so many people have private galleries or private collections. That they're willing to share.
Yeah, right. Some, and that takes a little more investigation. So
but they may be willing. You may not have to do the investigating. Somebody can say, "Oh, she might be interested in."
Right. Absolutely. Yes. So it's creating. We've created this network, and so now it's like, let's build it, and it's a platform that hasn't existed before.
Right.
So I have to tell you, so when I grew up here, which was a few decades ago.
Long, long ago.
Right. It's actually my 50th high school reunion this year.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing. So my mother, who was a portrait artist, and Phyllis Hammond, who did
Who we all know.
landscapes and things. So they were really the only two artists in Newport.
Huh.
And well, there might have been a few others. There
Yeah.
were maybe a few tucked away, but basically they were the only ones. And my mom started a little art store on Main Street in what was this little millinery shop that was only about this big. And yeah, so what am I saying? So my connection with the arts, and I've spent my life as an art educator, is, so what am I trying to say? So anyways, this is a perfect fit for me to come back here and to help, pull all these pieces together.
And to have gained an enormous diversity of experience by working other areas, other countries.
Yes.
Other techniques.
Yes, I'm well versed in the arts.
Yeah.
And both visual and performing arts.
Yeah.
While I taught visual arts, I've also been very involved with theater and poetry and different things, different places.
So this is really sort of pulling you full circle too.
It is. I know. That's why I'm excited about it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it may become full-time? I mean, most people of your age, our age, are thinking of retiring.
Right, well, yes, I can't quite afford to. Having been an art educator my entire life, I can't afford to do that.
Right.
So, and I like having something that really engages me with the community because I need that.
Yeah.
I need that connection.
Stimulus.
So hopefully it will continue, at least on a part-time basis. I don't really want full-time, but I need and want, part-time. So getting more grants to help continue to move things forward is essential part of my job to keep my job as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really neat so that you have found something that's pulled all of your life pieces together.
Yeah, that's happened a few times in my life.
Huh.
But it's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You also have a lot of knowledge of history of the area. I mean, several years ago, you told me some information about my house that I would never have known any other way, and sent me a photo. It was great.
It was the haunted house when I was growing up. We ran past it as fast as we could because we were deathly afraid of
the haunted house,
the vampires that lived there.
Which is so funny because as you tell me the story, I think that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I never think of my house as the quote haunted house with the vampires.
Well, you have brought new life to it. So
I think it had life before we moved there, and it wasn't just vampires.
Well, it was abandoned for a long time, and that's why we called it the haunted house.
Yeah.
But yes, it was, originally an inn way back in the day where a lot of smuggling went on, and because they would bring boats into the cove and people would stay in the inn.
Tiptoe across.
And then when I was young, there was the Cass sisters who lived there, and they had fabulous raspberries, and so we would go there
and steal them.
And no, we'd buy them actually, with my mother. Sometimes they would have us pick them ourselves.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah. And then it was just empty for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you must have sort of similar knowledge. And there are so many legends up here that I don't think get enough airplay.
Like what?
Well, like Skinner Island, which is just over the border, and there's a whole smuggling area of information. Scott Wheeler has a lot of it. You have some from a different perspective. I mean, the storytelling options up here are just amazing.
They are. One of my very favorite books is Disappearances by Howard.
Neal Mosher.
Mosher.
Yeah.
And it was his first book.
Yeah.
And he wrote it when he was living over off Lake Road, right near the border.
Right.
And it's it takes place in the 20s with
Sure.
the whiskey running, and it's just, I just love it for the history
Yeah.
and what really existed back in the day.
That was one of the books I first read when we moved up here. This is really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so neat to have access to that kind of history.
Yeah.
And of course, I live right by Barbara Malloy, who has a ton of information. I mean, her research knows no limits. I mean, her ability to start with one idea and go out for miles and then eventually bring it back is incredible. We have so many resources.
Right. Okay, so this is getting me back to thinking about
Your job.
Well, my job. Well, and about having these floating sculptures on the lake, and of course thinking of Barbara Malloy and floating memories. But beyond floating memories.
That wasn't quite what I had in mind.
No, me neither. But one of the things that has been talked about, within the collaborative is having art events and having a theme. And of course, we have the poetry one, the theme being borders. And but I'm thinking, okay, if we did this floating sculpture theme, what would the theme be? And thinking of the stories. And I don't know. I'm getting some little
Good.
something. And I did not know about this, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend, but there is a whole storytelling group in Magog, and it was over the course of a week. They had a storytelling festival.
Wow.
And they had some events at the Haskell. There were things in French and English. They had things in Magog. They had some things at the Haskell and near this side of the border, and then some things in Mount Orford.
Yeah. That would have been wonderful.
Yeah, and there was one I wanted to go to. It was held in Mount Orford, and it was tall tales, like telling tall tales. And so maybe the sculptures can be, I don't know, tall tales. Something, I don't know. Whatever, or even another storytelling event that's tall tales, about the lake, and from both sides of the border. That would be fun.
That lake must have a lot of stories to tell.
Well, and there are a few of us that are convinced it's cursed.
Why? I don't believe that. Whoops.
Well, I won't go into that now, but anyways.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, but
Yeah.
an old Indian curse. Well,
Maybe curses can be lifted.
Absolutely, and curses should be lifted.
Yeah.
Right, but it takes some magic.
Maybe there's another event for you.
Right, lifting the curse of the lake. Lifting the Indian curse of the lake, the native curse of the lake. Yes. We'll have to get some Abenaki elders involved.
Well, there certainly are plenty around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think your job is sounding really fun.
So I'm circling back around because I'm thinking about language.
Yeah.
And a number of people have brought up, well, we have this border, and because they're French,
Sure.
There's a language, not just a border, but a language barrier. And I kind of, go, what, huh? Like, to me, because I grew up here, because there was always French spoken, because I've lived in other countries with another language spoken, I don't even register with that, because you can always talk with your hands, or
Exactly.
whatever. And but I think that that's definitely something that that we want to hear about. What do people need to overcome whatever fear they have about going across the border and it being another language, both for the French coming here and people speaking English going there. So
I know somebody who grew up in Europe where there are so many different languages that I heard all the time around me, and I also have traveled a lot, so I think another language, cool, this is great.
Right, I do too. Yeah, I embrace it. I listen to the French radio all the time just because I like hearing another language. And so
but yeah, what do we need to feel comfortable crossing?
Right. And people, I think, have ideas, that it's going to be hard. Oh, and people aren't going to talk to me if I don't speak the language. And I think that's completely untrue. Right. So there was a suggestion from Allie Howell, actually, who said on the website, have a section, that informs people about what they need to go over the border.
Yes.
And
both ways.
And what to expect, exactly. And I said, yeah, great idea. We need to include that. And some people say, well, I don't have a passport, so I can't go across. And
a lot of people now have enhanced driver's licenses.
Right. And typically you need a passport to get an enhanced driver's license. But I think...
And I think there are some ways in which you can still use your birth certificate.
Yes, you can. Right.
But it's all easily figured out.
Yes, more easily, I think, than people imagine.
Yeah.
So I think that.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, let's help you.
Right, exactly. Let's help you get over whatever fear you may have about going and enjoying really great bread and cheese
and wine
and art.
Yeah.
And right now, there's during the next few weeks, there is the 2 art tours. One on this side of the lake, which is the Memphremagog Tour des Arts. Their names are similar, and the other one is on the other side of the lake. So they're kind of their dates overlap a bit.
Is that information on your Facebook group page?
I had it posted on the original one I posted, so I've got to post it again.
Yeah. And post it on Rocks too.
Yes, I think I might have put it there.
Or I'll just steal it from you.
Okay, fine, right.
Whichever works. We can cross post.
Yeah, so that I just think of that because that's happening right now, and
it's great.
And people, and it's such a nice way to go over and to go into people's studios and to see the art and have make a lovely day of it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And we're out of time.
Okay. We did have enough to talk about.
Oh, always. Always. So
great.
Thank you. And I will want to do this again when you have a little more set up.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the idea of us having something like this that's going to be so accessible is fabulous.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Thank you
My
for coming
pleasure.
in.
Thank you.